Yes, ladies and gentlemen, it's Valentine's Day. And when I think of Valentine's Day, I think of WWE RAW and chatting with the fellas. It's at Raj Giri _303, at Justin LaBar, and at Real Jack Farmer, all here to chat with you guys about all sorts of news. And I know what you guys are all thinking, and I know what you guys want to hear us talk about. So we're just going to get right into it. Raj, how was your Super Bowl?
Super Bowl. It was great, man. And guys, don't worry. We're going to get to Steve Austin here soon. We're letting everyone come on in. But I thought it was really entertaining. It was dramatic, but when I was watching it, and the halftime show was just put it over the top for me. But watching it, it just didn't feel to me like the two best teams were playing. I think a lot of that had to do with Odell Beckham getting injured in the first half. And it just kind of, the play was not as good after that. You had an hour where it's just like no one's scoring. No one can run the ball. The play wasn't great, but it was a close game. I had a little money on it. So, so I was at the edge of my seat. So it was a fun night.
It was always respect for the Vegas odds makers.
Jeez.
Bengals +4 could not have gotten that any closer of a spread. Justin, how did you like the Super Bowl? Do anything fun?
No, just put out a good spread. Watched it on the big screen. We had a buffalo chicken dip with some veggies. We had stuffed jalapeno poppers, and we had some cordon bleu sliders with the honey mustard sauce to dip them in. That was our spread. Nice. I enjoyed it. It's funny though. There's some people that watch this podcast that don't watch Raw, and the way they just heard this open up, and then Raj goes, "Don't worry, we're going to talk about Austin in a minute." There are people right now that are probably going, "Oh my God, what did Austin Theory do?" or Stone Cold Steve Austin did what tonight? It's like, so I love the cliffhanger that we already set up for this podcast. Super Bowl was fun. Always a good spectacle. I was rooting for the Bengals. I wanted to see Joe Burrow. I think he's got a good story. I think he's a good person, and that counts for something, I guess. My parlay would have hit if the Bengals just would have won. If that money line would have hit, I had everything else, and just so.
Yeah, my same game hit. I had the Bengals. I mean, the Rams winning outright, and then I had Rams winning by 1 to 6 points. So that one did pretty well.
I was definitely hoping the Bengals won. I'm a Seahawks fan, so I want no goodness for the Rams ever, even though the whole city was celebrating around me. I was a curmudgeon. I was unhappy about it.
It is pretty cool here. Obviously I live here in Pittsburgh, as most people don't know. And Aaron Donald is from Pittsburgh. He went to high school here in Pittsburgh. He went to University of Pitt for college ball. So his family still here. He has other family members that are playing football. So he's really big part of the community here. So it's been a big kind of celebration day around here if you're in Pittsburgh for a local guy who is on top of the football world right now.
Speaking of the Super Bowl, the WWE kind of had their hands all over it in a lot of places. You had the WWE Hall of Famer Nikki Bella appeared in the Super Bowl pregame show alongside Terry Crews. We also got Batista in a Super Bowl commercial called Thrill Driver, which I thought was really funny. That was a good one. Titus O'Neil was there. Sasha Banks was there. Pat McAfee was doing voiceover work and doing stuff there. Not to mention The Rock opened the thing. It was kind of cool. I always think to myself, this is, and Justin will let you talk on this. When WWE says they want stars, this is why they talk about that, right?
Yeah, I mean they look at themselves. They truly believe it. Pro wrestling is what settles the conflict. A pro wrestling ring is where they settle their conflict, but they truly look at themselves as entertainment. They look at themselves as they build characters, and that they are not a wrestling show. They're there for something for everybody. Hence the expansion and the reality shows and such they've done. And this is Super Bowl is the biggest. It's the biggest sporting event in the U.S. each year by far, by pretty much any metric you want to measure. And so to have their characters that they established, that have since gone on, obviously The Rock being the biggest, but to have their characters, recognized and be part. I mean, that's I think that's Vince's grand goal. Is that's what he wants WWE's footprint and resume to ultimately, and legacy to be, drivers of the entertainment world.
Yeah, and The Rock opening the Super Bowl up. He did like a video intro. That was 2 years ago. Before the Chiefs, what was that game? The Chiefs and the one the Chiefs won. but man, he introduced Team USA at the Olympics last week. And then this week, he's opening the Super Bowl actually on the field, cutting a very WWE-ish promo. He did the finally. He did all his rock mannerisms. It was like his opening promo at the XFL, the very first XFL game. So
Yeah.
It was awesome. I mean, man, that guy is just another level of superstar. Like it's something we haven't seen in a long time. He's like Michael Jackson almost in a weird way.
I always get crabby when people are like, the WWE needs stars like they had with The Rock. And that's such an unfair comparison.
No, yeah.
To ever be like, yeah, back in the late 90s, they had The Rock. Well, The Rock is like, you're never getting The Rock again. That's not the WWE's fault that they had the biggest star of all time in there. I mean, all time maybe is a stretch, but you know what I mean? Just
right.
This massive star. That's a little unfair to hold them to that bar for the rest of time now. But I saw it in the chat, and again, we're going to talk about Stone Cold here in a second. If you have any questions about Stone Cold, by the way, make sure to hit us up with some of those super chats, and we'll get your conversation on the air here. But Brock Lesnar was on Pat McAfee's show, and this was just a delight of an interview.
Real quick, This is a good point. Kyle McVeigh pointing out the owner of the XFL opening the Super Bowl for the NFL.
It's that forbidden door, baby.
The forbidden door is opened up in football.
And by the way, you see the Rock. They made such a big deal of the Super Bowl, in this gorgeous $5 billion stadium, man-made pond, and the whole scenery around it. Made such a big deal to go so local. From obviously the musical acts to the Rock's. Hollywood is his town. He's Hollywood's leading man. I'm seeing all this. I'm like, there's absolutely no way that WrestleMania can come here next year to that stadium and not have The Rock in the main event. They have to have that date that far out on his calendar circled.
If the XFL does come back, I mean, think about how busy he is already. Theoretically, he could be running a football league next year. It's got to happen, but just with his schedule, you could always see something getting in the way. But it's got to happen
because he's at that point where money talks. Like him taking a day off to do WrestleMania could cost him a ton of money not working on his other project.
It's a money loser for him.
Yeah, which is crazy to think that WrestleMania could be a money loser.
You're telling me he doesn't have a big enough staff? Somebody can't handle a few days of operations for him for that while he goes and does the wrestling thing for a minute while he's a weekend warrior for once, in the last 10 years.
I was thinking watching though, that stadium is going to be perfect for WrestleMania.
Oh yeah, it's beautiful.
The whole time I was like, this just is built for a WrestleMania. This is going to be incredible. But as mentioned, Brock Lesnar was on Pat McAfee. Great interview. Definitely check it out. But the thing that I think got a little people stirred up a bit is he made a comment. Speaking of stars, he said, I'm looking at these young kids and I don't know. Someone needs to step up. That means get over, figure out how to put A's in seats, not worry about your next high spot. Figure out how the hell I can be different. Like, how can I make money? That's it. That's the business. This is kind of an argument you see happen a lot from the older wrestlers to the newer wrestlers. Justin, I want to start with you on this one. If I'm honest, it sounds like he's talking about the difference between NXT Black and Gold versus NXT 2.0.
Maybe I didn't really even think of that from that angle. I just thought about John Cena's had something similar to say. I think last summer he said they got to start building the future, and I think what Brock's saying makes a ton of sense. Obviously it makes sense, and he got into it as stop worrying about your next high spot, and then kind of that argument we hear, it's not about how many 450 flip-a-doos, it's connecting with the audience, having a character. That all being said, I think I agree with him, but I think also to play devil's advocate, if I'm average wrestler on the indie scene, or even average wrestler that's in the locker room in WWE, your response to that's probably, well, yeah, dude, we all don't look like you. We all don't, Brock obviously is a gifted athlete with his look, with the fact that he had the balls to bail on Vince very young in his career after being signed to a lot of money and go do UFC and and shine in UFC. Like, so then that made him a whole other level of a star and level of credibility for him to come back in 2012. So like, it's like, yeah, what Brock's saying makes sense. They need to make new stars, and that's a big conversation we constantly have. But I can see somebody in the locker room being like, yeah, but you have a once in a, a generational look and ability, and also, by the way, you've gotten to the point where you can do whatever you want. He probably did that media interview today. I doubt that he cleared it with the WWE PR office. I think he was in Indy and he just stopped by because he's Brock Lesnar and he's friends with Pat McAfee. Like, most wrestlers are like, we don't have that relationship with the company and that push, or that pull. So I think what Brock's saying is certainly rings true, but I think it's not always that easy. The company has to also help the talent get in a position to get over. So
yeah, and Raj, just to clarify my comment a second ago, what I mean is, I guess the Black and Gold brand was always known for being the high work rate, big matches, big moves, big spots, where 2.0 is kind of the opposite. It is just, let's get star power, let's get characters, let's get interesting out there. And that's why I make that comparison there. But what are your thoughts on his is he right? Is he wrong? Is there a middle ground?
I mean, I think he's right in some ways. I do think when you're concentrating more on moves than character and promos, you got to have both. But I do think at times people get too caught up with the moves and the work rate. When you really look at the numbers and what's really moving numbers, it's the big stars, it's the storylines, whether it's AEW or WWE. So in that sense, I agree with him. But on the other hand, they are so scripted now that, which is something he didn't have to deal with when he came in. And, a Rock or a Stone Cold, they could cut their own promos back in the day, and they could work on their character and really spend time, focusing on that. Whereas now you're giving a script, you're kind of given what your character is, what your character does. So there's a lot more limitations and handcuffs that they didn't have before. But you see, you could break through like a Roman Reigns. I mean, he is just on another level right now. Outside of the Brock, he's the biggest star in the company. I think Ronda is more well known. Obviously, she's a huge superstar outside of wrestling, but I think in wrestling, as far as who's moving numbers in wrestling, Roman is bigger than Ronda. So, but he's been given a lot of opportunities too. So,
right.
It's a tough one. It's making stars is not easy, and when you're so scripted and you're not able, to really find your own voice, it can be that much harder.
It is harder than it sounds, I think, to just suddenly be a character, because, yeah, you are told what to do. You can only do so much, but it is interesting. And the conversation of they need to build stars is always happening. I do find myself thinking, though, I don't remember there ever not being stars in WWE. They always seem to find a way to make it work. But I think our chat has waited long enough, guys. Let's talk about it. News broke during Raw. It sounds like WWE is going to throw a ton of money at Stone Cold Steve Austin to make a return for WrestleMania. I have not had a chance to read this specific report myself. Is it, Raj, is this still something that's in the air, or is this finalized? Is it happening?
It's not finalized. It's not official yet. It's not official until they announce it. But, the way this was from Fightful, the way it was reported, it seems like it's pretty much a done deal that he's going to be wrestling. I mean, I think everyone expected that he was going to be doing something at that show. Kevin Owens has been running down Texas and saying he's not going to be on the WrestleMania card. So I was thinking that meant that it was going to be like an Undertaker, John Cena thing where Kevin Owens, is running down Texas at the show, and then Steve Austin's music hits and he comes and gives Owens the stunner and beats the hell out of him. But, for something like that, you can't really sell tickets ahead of time. And with a match, you can. And, that's a huge stadium. They're trying to do 2 nights in a row. You got one mega match with, Brock and Roman, and that's not enough for 2 nights. So an Austin match the other night, I mean, that's gigantic. And, he hasn't wrestled since 2001 was his last match?
2003.
2003, my bad.
Yeah.
His last match with The Rock at WrestleMania. They almost brought him back for a match against Jonathan Coachman in 2005, and then Austin balked at the last minute. But man, I mean, it's gigantic.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, the way I agree, Raj, the way that it was reported, and I was watching social media and fight. They're talking. They were saying basically like if we didn't report it, it was going to get reported. Right. Which that tells me that means whenever this happened, and I even go back to like the CM Punk in the summer, whenever that happens, I mean there's been enough motion that's going on behind closed doors that something's going on. Again, it's never official until it happens with pro wrestling on TV. But I'm so torn at this because the most common thing we all get asked, if we meet other fans or what have you, who's your favorite wrestler? That's like the most, or what's your favorite match? All the common questions, right? My easy go-to is I'd say Stone Cold. My first Mania was Mania 17, him and The Rock, the heel turn. I just have so many memories of Stone Cold. So, I'm so torn because I have fantasy booked his one-off WrestleMania return for the last 15 years of at a point we thought maybe a CM Punk is a situation and whatever. All John Cena. Would it be great to see a Cena versus Austin, flag bearers of the generation. But at the same time, it's like you look at 03. Granted, they didn't get to market it because they didn't really know. He kind of kept it close to the vest with his health at the time. But his last match was going out, doing the job, looking up at the lights against his arch rival, The Rock, who at the time was just the top guy in wrestling. Nobody knew he was going to go over and take over entertainment. He goes out losing to The Rock. You can't write a better end to the story. And he's resisted he's done referee, special enforcer, all kinds of stuff. He's done the Mania payday for that, but he has held strong in not doing a match. So now it's just hard for me to wrap my mind around that in 2022 at 57 years old. Granted, he is a good-looking 57-year-old dude in terms of it seems like he's in really solid shape. It's hard for me to wrap my mind around that he's going to finally give in now for that. And then it's like, all right, well, if that is going to happen, there's two routes to go. There's the route of you find the biggest, sexiest, jam-packed marquee possible, and that's when you start throwing out do you get Goldberg for one more match? Do that 90s dream match? Do you, even though Brock coincidentally said he never got to work Steve today in that interview, I don't see that happen. Do you pull out a crazy ass other legend name, or no, go the other route and make a star. Brock Lesnar talking about make a star. Find an Austin Theory, find somebody who you're immediately going to go, Stone Cold Steve Austin's coming out of retirement, he's facing who? And now you're going to know who that new person is. No disrespect to Kevin Owens. And while Owens uses the stunner and he did start cutting promos tonight, so it seems like that's where this is going. No disrespect to Kevin Owens. But I feel like Kevin Owens is probably at least halfway, if not on the second half, the back nine of his WWE career. And I don't know if a match against Stone Cold Steve Austin, while that's forever going to be great on a Kevin Owens resume that he got Austin out of retirement, you would have to book it in some really special way for it to elevate Kevin Owens to Roman Reigns type stick, the status of a guy that's going to carry the company. I don't know. I just don't know if I agree. If you're going to get Austin back, that's the best opponent. I would literally go, I would find the youngest youthful guy that has full potential. And who better than the guy that Vince McMahon is whispering in his ear every week?
The only thing with that is, you got Austin versus Austin, but does that sell as many tickets? Because if this is being done to sell tickets for potentially 100,000 seats for for that night or whatever it is after the stage, Steve Austin versus Austin Theory, that's not really the money match. And to be honest with you, I don't think Owens versus Austin is either. I do think that Austin could go out and have a good match with Owens. I think they could have a false count anywhere, or some sort of no DQ stip that they could use a lot of tricks and fight outside the ring and do a bunch of brawling where you're not taking in that many bumps, or it's not dangerous. A Steve Austin versus Brock Lesnar, I think that would be a huge match, gigantic. But Austin hasn't wrestled in 20 years, and his neck, and I can't see him taking a German, much less going to Suplex City. So that would be in my, if you look at potentially who the guys are out there that you could probably bring back, or who you could have him face: Roman Reigns, Steve Austin versus Roman Reigns, Steve Austin versus Brock Lesnar, Steve Austin versus John Cena. I don't know. What do you think? Steve Austin versus Goldberg. Again, I think the time is the ship has sailed on that one. I don't think it feels like a dream match like it did 10, 15 years ago. But
I will say, the type of match he does, and you're right. Austin, after he hurt his neck and his knees, ironically, when he was on the meteoric rise, he no longer, did the great work matches that he did with like Bret Hart. Stone Cold Steve Austin at his prime got limited to punches, kicks, stomps in the corner, Luthez press, and a stunner. That was that. But that's all you need because he had so much magic. And you're right.
Great.
He even after getting dropped on his head by Owen, he didn't take Germans after that. He didn't let guys take. There were certain moves he would not take because of the risk, and he wasn't gonna lose out on the investment that he was made in him. So I agree. Like the type of match, like Austin Theory would probably be kind of limited because Stone Cold Steve Austin's only going to want to do certain things. So I agree. It would have to be a brawl kind of thing, but I have a hard time wrapping my head around it. Stone Cold Steve Austin, after probably turning down all the different creative options that have been thrown at him in the last 15 years, that some truckload of money's finally been backed up. That's the right amount. I'd also think that has to be the right creative. I mean, is this the right creative? Kevin Owens is just calling out Texas.
It reads to me like Austin probably requested Kevin Owens. He likes him. Yeah, he let Owens asked Austin for his permission to use the stunner. So it almost seems like that was Austin's request. I mean, Austin with someone like an AJ Styles or someone like that, he's going to have a good match because they can have a good match with anyone. Austin, all he needs to do is the basics. But yeah, I think already you see some negativity online, and that's just the internet. But this is when it's happening. That's a huge moment, and that's going to be gigantic. And this is business, and I'm assuming they pulled it off, and it really sounds like they did. That's probably the biggest WrestleMania story, WrestleMania wrestler a comeback in ever, maybe.
Possibly. Yeah. I mean, in the chat, Stellar Justin Lopez says this would have to end up being a squash match if it happens. I can't see Austin at 57 taking a bump after all these years. To your guys' point, I know it doesn't sell tickets quite the same, but I can imagine KO coming out and just ripping Texas and getting the crowd against him. Stone Cold's music hits, everyone loses their mind, and he just hits a stunner, catches some beers, says what a couple times, and starts off the show on like a super high note.
But that's not what this report is winking to. That they did that. I mean, when they were in Dallas last time, Austin, Sean, and Foley, it came out and did the thing with the New Day, they beat up the Axis of Evil, and then they beat up the New. They've done the Austin come out and do that routine, Jack. This is hinting towards we are going to market, main event, and sell tickets to the one night only return of Stone Cold Steve Austin. And I just, that's huge, and that's a trickle down effect. That's gonna be huge for WWE. That's gonna be huge for Wrestling Inc. this podcast because it's just gonna be a ripple effect of traffic and conversation for the next 2 months. I just hope that once it's all said and done, like once I'm on here with hopefully you guys after WrestleMania is done, I just hope that we're not looking at this like, okay, this is HBK and Saudi. We're all just gonna pretend it didn't happen and pretend that his last match was still.
HBK and Saudi. I don't remember that.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, but there is that, and that's the thing with using someone like KO is HBK and Saudi. He was teaming with Triple H against Undertaker and Kane,
who blew a muscle out, and then
who blew a muscle out. Kane is a mayor.
Sean had to do the work. He had to carry the match.
Right. Yeah. So that's a very different story. Taker also, that was against Goldberg. When Taker came back, he teamed with Roman against Drew and was it Shane McMahon, I think? And that match was really good. Yeah. I'm sorry, what's that?
I was going to say, you guys are missing what could be a really great match that I think could deliver in all cases. And actually, Raj, you alluded to it. Stone Cold versus AJ Styles, an AJ Styles signature match, the Boneyard.
That's not selling tickets, doing a thematic, cinematic match.
That would be the worst. I'd love it, but it would be the worst way to have him come back. Wrestling Enthusiast asked, personally, do you guys see it happening? I think that if it's gotten this far in the news cycle, that something's definitely cooking. Because I think, especially like places like Fightful, they're not going to report something this big willy-nilly just to get clicks. Like,
I do think the timing of it too. They're starting the big push for tickets for WrestleMania this week. They were offering 2 for 1 today, so it seems like they're not upset that this is out there.
Yeah, and it is interesting that this was the night that Kevin Owens started taking tons of shots at Texas.
Yeah, and they were doing that. They were doing that poll on WWE.com. Like, do you believe that Kevin Owens, hates Texas? And it's like, what is this? Why are we doing this? Why does anyone care? And then once that came out, it's like,
yeah. So I think something's gonna happen there. And I say it with everyone else. I say it with Goldberg. I say it with Undertaker. If they want to come back, I'm here for it. You're always welcome back with Jack Farmer. I want to see the legends. Bring them to me. You never know when it's the last time. So let me have another legend. Like I said, I'll be happy if he comes out and hits a stunner. That'd be fine. I'd be happy fine with that. But we'll see how it goes.
I don't think it'll flop. I think that Austin's too smart, and he's going to be facing someone that he can work with.
Yeah, Austin's timeless. Austin is always going to work. Just like a hand-painted portrait of somebody you love. When I heard about paintyourlife.com, I thought, what a great idea for a gift for birthdays, anniversaries, and weddings. But I figured it must be expensive, but not so. I went and I had it done for my mom and dad. In fact, Mama and Papa Farmer right here. My camera's too close. I look just like my dad. There's my mom.
He's got a good head of hair on him.
Yeah, it runs in the family. Keeps. But it's really great. They don't know that this is coming yet. I'm going to give that to him as a gift eventually. I'm waiting for the right time. But it was super easy to do. You literally just send the photo. Then they work with you via messenger. Super fast, super easy, super affordable. It's a professional hand-painted portrait created from any photo at a truly affordable price. You can combine photos. You can choose from the different artists. It's, like I said, it's user-friendly. I'm an idiot, and I figured it out. Totally blown away by this. Raj, I know you've done it as well, but I want everyone to go and check it out at paintyourlife.com. There's no risk if you don't love the final painting. Your money is refunded. It's guaranteed. And now, as a limited time offer, you get 20% off of your painting. That's right, 20% off, and it's free shipping. To get this special offer, text the word wrestling to 64,000. That's wrestling to 64,000. Text wrestling to 64,000. Paint your life. Celebrate the moments that matter most. Message and data rates may apply. Terms apply. Available at paintyourlife.com/terms. Again, wrestling to 64,000.
Jack, did you smarten your parents up that they were going to be used as the promo?
They have no idea that they're promo material right now.
They're going to be invoicing Raj tomorrow morning.
Nope.
Once again, I've shown this before. Here's mine that I did with my family. It's hanging up.
Does your family know that they're being used for a promo?
They don't.
I love that you totally just sideswiped your parents by getting a painting done to them so you can hawk it on the podcast.
So I can hawk it on the podcast and then still look like when I give it as a gift eventually, I will look like I'm very thoughtful as well. It's a double header, you guys. It's brilliant. By the way, the frame came with, I got the frame there too. I didn't have to do anything. I just sent him a picture, and now I look like I know what I'm like. I'm a thoughtful son.
And when you send a picture, they'll come back and send you a proof. So if there's any alterations that need to be made or anything you don't feel is quite right, they'll fix it.
Yeah, I was blown away by how easy it was. Very cool. You guys got to check it out. Text wrestling 64,000. In the chat, David Montalvo says Sami Zayn would do great on a promo against Austin. I think so. That'd be fun. I think I love Sami Zayn, but I feel like that might be little big for Sammy's britches right now.
Well, Sami, they've got Johnny Knoxville. It's clear.
Oh, you're right. So he's up there with the big guys.
Yeah, it's clear that's where they're headed. I don't think that needs the Intercontinental title, but I'm sure. Again, I think didn't Johnny Knoxville say he had a brain hemorrhage recently?
Oh, I didn't see that,
last year. I think while they were filming Jackass. So,
hey, if Austin can put aside his knees and neck, Johnny Knoxville can suck it up. All right.
Yeah, he's got to pay a lot of dues very fast to be the Intercontinental Champion. Okay. Mike in the chat says Theory gets no reaction every week. Owens does.
Yeah, I mean, KO does get a good. I mean, he definitely is in like the. If I had to make a top 10 of active WWE talent, he's in the top 10 of who gets a natural reaction. So again, I don't want to, like I said earlier, I was like, no disrespect to KO. I mean, like it's more or less just like where he's at in his career. Again, I think he's gonna be 38 in a couple months. So I'm just thinking to myself, like, if you're using Austin and like, I just hope I hope there's some rub that translates, even if that means for the next 3 years and KO's, a main eventer for the next 3 years and they get 3 years of main events out of him. And he's been in the main event before, but like, I just hope that I just want the rub to translate. If this ends up being the biggest thing for KO and whatever, that's great. I have nothing against Kevin Owens. I like Kevin Owens. I just hope the rub translates because you're getting this guy if this guy's coming out of retirement after holding out for this long, I just want it to translate into something. It's got to mean something.
What if it's really just a setup for Roman to beat the tar out of Austin and just elevate Roman even higher into the stratosphere?
Because that's a big. I mean, clearly they're going Roman and Lesnar.
Yeah,
I don't think they're going to break away from those plans. But
it's 2 nights. What if he beats them both back to back?
What if? All right, here's another. Again, we can fantasy book because the most crazy fantasy thing might be coming to life here very shortly, and that's also returning. No, that's got to be live, Jack. Austin, Randy Orton again, hit a marquee. I mean, I don't know. Like they obviously put off having Randy and Riddle split.
Yeah,
Austin, Randy could work a safe match with him. I don't know.
Yeah, Randy's a legend killer, so it pull that.
I'm trying to think of names that, like.
What if you did this? What if you did kind of WrestleMania 10 style, where you were kind of similar, where you had Austin versus Goldberg on night 1, Roman versus Brock on night 1. The 2 winners go off square off on night 2.
I love that because you have something to advertise, but then you still have an element of surprise. I like that.
Yeah, I love that. That'd be great
for the title, for the Universal title,
and do it in a boneyard.
This is a good one here in the chat. I think this is another one we forgot it when I'm saying like forget about Sean and Saudi. What about this? What did Corbin get retiring Kurt Angle from DC Conductor? That's another one we kind of gloss over. That Kurt Angle's career ended by Baron Corbin.
He is undefeated now as Happy Corbin.
Good stat.
Yeah, no kidding. That was a waste. I think that was one of those where I was, I would keep saying that. Like, this seems like a total waste. This is nothing on Corbin, but he wasn't ready to get the rub. And they could have used that to really build someone else, and they did.
It felt like they were trying to stack him up with a bunch of little accolades, and then they just sort of fell short on going all the way with it. Because that was when he was winning King of the Ring. He was retiring Kurt Angle. He was doing a lot of things that were like little accolades that felt like they were going to build up to something, and then they just stopped. I think there's a mechanical spider involved somewhere.
Michael the Virus saying HBK versus Austin. I'd watch that rematch. I would, but I wouldn't. I don't think I'd like it.
Yeah, it would start off fun and then not be fun by the end of the match.
I'll tell you what,
Shawn Michaels without the hair, it's just not the same.
Yeah, he's not the Heartbreak Kid.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, if Austin does come back, if this is the return, if it's happening, that's going to make for a hell of a documentary on Peacock that we'll get to see.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
if they do it. I mean, they seem to be dropping the ball in all these documentaries.
If they don't do a WWE 24/7 on Stone Cold coming out of retirement, I mean, then we've.
Then what's the point?
Yeah, I mean,
they get nothing out of this Peacock deal. I think it shows. I mean, they get their fixed money, but they don't get anything by any extra subs or anything. So
then make it then edit it into a 5-part documentary special that spans 5 weeks and put it on Tuesday in replacement of NXT.
No, I'm sure they did one for Goldberg, right? Didn't they do Goldberg at there's something on there, a documentary that just came out recently.
I would be okay with them doing pieces to documentaries on Raw. I mean, a live audience would hate it, but like
I said when because obviously Raw being 3 hours and the problem with the third hour always down is that's been happening for years. When the Undertaker Last Ride thing came out, I was like, take the Last Ride again, edit it up and like. Have that, put that as a 2 or 3 part premiere and let that just be the final hour of Raw. Again, like, live crowd, give them the let Raw be East Coast time, 8 to 10, and let the last hour just be on USA, just with commercials, the releasing of that documentary. Like that stuff, I think that stuff would do. It wouldn't. I don't think it would do any worse than what the third hour tends to do with Monday Night Raw.
I think you'd actually get more people interested in that kind of stuff, personally.
Didn't they? I thought during the pandemic they did air one of those documentaries. I think it was Last Ride they aired, and the rating wasn't that good for it.
Oh, what do I know?
Yeah, but it was also. But I think it was also very early in the pandemic, so like the content of what you saw in the 2 hours leading up to it was in the Performance Center. I mean, it's not like you had.
Right. But I think, or even the first hour Raw, you put in, you air 20 minutes of the documentary each week, and then, splice it with NXT matches, some other stuff where it's not an hour of Raw, but it's getting you ready and it's got interesting content. I think, that'd be better than what we got now.
Yeah. Oh, Exclusive News Insider says the only guy to me who looked legitimate enough to go over Brock to me was Joe. He was freaking believable and badass. WWE dropped the ball on him. I don't know anyone who says Joe's not great, but
I don't think he should have beaten Brock though.
Yeah.
Look, I think you have to, be kind of in that main event picture for a while, I think, to earn a victory over Brock. I guess Drew, they didn't do that, but
he felt like he was on the verge for a while, though, when he won. Like, it wasn't a shock that he beat Brock. It wasn't like, whoa, this guy came out of nowhere and beat Brock. Because I think a lot of people say you build a star that way, but I feel there's differences between big wins and like beating Brock Lesnar,
Well, and the thing with Samoa Joe is like comments like this and fans of his, like they all are saying that based upon what he accomplished prior to WWE, based upon Ring of Honor and based upon TNA. He just never could get any momentum on the main roster. And some of it was injury. He just never really got that, like, and that's how, and we of course know when you go to WWE, you for the most part you have to kind of, even AJ Styles. AJ came in, was a big deal, but like AJ earned his keep and won Vince over, and has solidified himself as he'll be a WWE Hall of Famer. Like, but when you go in WWE, like whatever you did prior, you have to start over. You have to earn it there. And like I just don't think that Joe ever fully earned what maybe he was capable of. And again, I'm sure injuries played a factor in that. So, that one main event match, I mean, that's what Joe got, but like Joe just he just never got that credibility in the WWE's eyes, I don't think.
Yeah, those injuries really hurt him, because anytime he seemed like he was starting to get on a bit of a roll, he got injured. So, yeah. But I agree. Joe could pull it off as far as, giving that aura of invincibility.
Yeah.
He was really good at that.
Really one of the best on the mic, I think, when it comes to that. But Matthew Tech says, "What's up, boys? Hope y'all have been well. Did you guys catch Lesnar on Pat McAfee Pod? Gold misdraw tonight. Have they announced the Hall of Fame headliner?" We chatted about Brock a little bit earlier on in the show. I think that's a fun interview. I think everyone should go check it.
It was awesome. I was hearing Brock do a Stone Cold impression, and it was pretty good.
Yeah,
I'm so glad. Like, I'm so glad Brock did that interview. Like, it's a very loose, obviously, kind of format on Pat's show. Like, other than like Howard Stern, like, because Brock was able to cuss, he was so relaxed. And not that you need to curse, but you could tell that like he was just comfortable. He was being funny. It was kind of, that Pat's show is kind of like a fraternity, like a fraternity dorm. So like there's inside jokes. There's a lot of. So like he just looked like he was having so much fun. Brock did, from the cowboy hat to, he reflected on the business to talking about his, his farming, and like, I mean, and Brock does no media. Brock does not do media. Very few, far in between. WrestleMania RAW has he done a little bit of media over the time, but like he just does not do it. So to get him for almost an hour, just unfiltered in a comfort space with another former NFL player and just somebody who he knows, like, yeah, if you didn't see it, go check it out, because it's up there with the, it's up there with like the Undertaker out of character, just being Mark Calloway.
Brock reminds me of Undertaker in that way, in the sense that it's fascinating seeing him out of character, just being himself. And to Justin's point, like Brock did that Stone Cold Sessions, and that still he seemed a little guarded. He didn't seem like he seemed like he was being interviewed.
Yeah.
Whereas this, he was just having a blast. It seemed like he was hanging out with his friends.
And one of the funniest part, it's not going to like make the headlines because obviously the headlines are going to be what he said about needing to make stars. And one of the funniest parts, if you check it out, is Pat brings up fans being crazy enough to jump the barricade, and Pat brings up the fan that tackled Seth Rollins a couple months ago, and Brock's response of daring somebody to do it. I can't. The timing and the timing, and if you look, and the camera's on Brock, the timing and what his face of when he said, "I fucking dare somebody," like it was just like Pat lost it. It was just a huge pop. So go check.
I got to read this quote from Lesnar. He was asked about being on people's Mount Rushmores of pro wrestlers. This was his answer. I don't care or give a shit. I'm serious. Like, I don't give a F if I'm in the Hall of Fame or not. I've done what I did. I don't care. I don't care if I'm leaving a legacy behind. What I do care is, I'm a good person, a good dad, and all that stuff. That's important to me. So Brock is just he's the only one. He's the only person under WWE contract that would say that.
Yeah. And I love him for it. I love Brock Lesnar. I've loved him for a long time. I'm glad more people are starting to appreciate Brock Lesnar. It's funny how people hated him for so long. I guess because he was only part-time, as they say, but he's so great. I love him. In the chat, Jody Shauna Jenkins says, always wanted to see El Torito Brock. Okay, so I'm a number, and then Exclusive News Insider says, I'm number one Brock fan, by the way. I don't know. I'm the head broccoli around here.
There's a lot of Brock fans here.
I fly with the Brock flock. So we got Mike D in the chat saying, is Bam Bam Bigelow ever going into the Hall of Fame?
He will. They had plans for him to go a few years ago, and then things got changed around, but he will for sure. Someone, one of that super chat, they were asking about when are they going to announce the headliner. It's not that important this year because the Hall of Fame is just right after SmackDown, so they need to sell tickets. That's going to sell out regardless. So I'm sure probably next week, but they don't need to do it early like they've done in the past.
Which, to that point, Raj, I mean, I think we all feel that it seems like his career's done. The Undertaker, you're in Dallas. Like, it feels like this would be the year, like, for all those reasons. But like you just said, wouldn't you want the year you put the Undertaker in to be able to get a payday out of that and sell out an arena for Hall of Fame? And if that's not going to happen, like, I mean, yeah, it ensures your SmackDown taping sold out. But like what I'm basically getting at, do they actually hold off on putting Taker in and wait until they can orchestrate a year like in LA or something where they have a separate event? Like, do they hold it off? I mean,
or what if they did his induction? You got 2 nights of WrestleMania. What if they did his induction at WrestleMania?
Yeah.
So you do all the others. It'd be kind of weird doing all the others at SmackDown, but he's big enough that he could do that, and that's a special thing.
Well, like, so I mean, what? So like he just comes, like, they just designate a time where he just comes out on the entranceway and just cuts a acceptance
in the ring.
Vince,
Vince cuts promo, or Kane, or Vince and Kane, and maybe a few other people have him in the ring, call him out, do the whole thing. It's 30 minutes.
That's not a bad call. We're sitting here talking about how they have to sell 2 nights.
Yeah.
And you got to bring in Austin to sell tickets. That would be a ticket mover there. The Undertaker was in the Hall of Fame on night 1, and
plus you could get a sick entrance for him too. One final cool Undertaker entrance with that in that arena. I think it would look great.
Yeah, because it never sat well that he went out in front of a bunch of screens, with the Thunderdome.
Yeah, that doesn't count.
And I'm sure if he gets inducted this year, he'll be on Raw on Monday night and do a speech like they did with Warrior. So yeah.
Do a spinneroonie with Booker T. Jake McDonald says, not to be negative, but I assure you WWE has given zero thought to how this can elevate KO. It's about getting Austin on the marquee for ticket sales.
It's probably true.
No, he's not wrong. I'm just sitting here trying to be. I'm trying to be progressive and like, all right, let's figure out a way to make this matter the next day, and not just
not just get a night of ticket sales.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're Kevin Owens though too, even if they do say the match is going to be 1 minute, you're going to get stunnered and then done. Well, I think even if you're KO, you're like, that's still kind of cool.
Well, again, but to Jack, to that point, actually, Jack, that's a good point. You bring up, okay, what is a match? Like, if KO and Stone Cold is the most realistic, okay, so what's the match? it's not going to be a 30-minute classic, but I don't think that they can get, because if you have Austin coming back, that has to end one of the nights, right? You're not going to ask anything to go out and follow Austin's return entrance and return match. So this has to end one of the nights, night one or night two. So you can't just do a 1 minute there will have to be a little bit of drama. There'll have to be a little bit of something, back to what Raj and I were saying earlier. If it has like a street fight component to it, you can fight around you can do things to kind of mask Austin's limitations or whatever they might be. But it can't be a minute. There has to be, or KO has to enlist help and people are and Austin's running through a gauntlet, or you do like a Sting Triple H thing from 31 where KO's got Sami Zayn and people coming at his behalf, and all of a sudden Austin's got Shawn, people from his era. Shawn Michaels shows up and super kicks somebody. Like you do a lot of gaga to mask. You would have to do something to at least fill 10 to 15 minutes beyond entrances to make it the final thing that ends the night. You can't just do a squash.
Kind of like Sting and Triple H.
Right. Yeah.
Well, we're 45 minutes into the show, fellas. Should we talk about a little bit of Monday Night Raw?
Just the headlines. We don't got to
So, before we get in there, though, as always, I like to say thanks to everyone who has joined us in the live chat. Tim Mickles, Rocky Bea, Azelle Pompous, Brewsta Green, Killer Styles, Michael the Virus. All you guys, everyone, and even the names I'm not getting to, thanks so much for joining us live. Also, thank you for everyone who watches later and listens to the audio versions. Like, comment, share, subscribe, 5-star reviews. You know what to do. I guess we'll kind of just fly through some of the bigger topics here. And we'll start with as I'm scrolling through big topics. This is what I'm going to have to scrub through the show a little bit for. But I guess I think it is important to just mention out the opening segment. We get all the guys who are
real quick. I'm sorry. I just 1 second. Someone put a pretty cool idea on here where KO goes on a live Stone Cold podcast, gets offended by the questions and snaps. That would be kind of a cool thing to do, is if you did Broken Skull sessions, and then it just got really heated and ended up with, even it doesn't have to be a physical, but KO walking away. That would be kind of make it shoot style and look real. I think that would have been kind of cool.
Would that sort of solely the visual of like Broken Skull sessions going forward? Everyone thinks it's all just a work.
Well, there is that problem.
Yeah, because I think Austin's podcast, I know he doesn't do the I don't think he does a podcast one deal anymore. I think it's just these specials for WWE. I mean, I think he's like, I always say that he's like the Howard Stern of WWE, or of like pro wrestling interviews, meaning like Howard Stern could always get like people to open up. Austin's a really good interviewer, and I think that would actually damage the credibility if they turned it into a storyline bit. Yeah.
It's but yeah, because his are good. I think because when you're being interviewed by him, like you have to open up. He's like the best. You know, you can't act like you're too cool to answer to Stone Cold.
Yeah. Did you ever listen to the one when he had John Moxley on, and it was super awkward?
Yeah,
that was on the network.
Yeah. It was, he basically, in so many words, kind of like called out Moxley of like, I don't know, lazy. I don't know if you're bringing your A game. It was very awkward.
Yeah. That no one wants to be that guy or a girl next time, so they're always trying to be on their best behavior.
Remember when he had Vince on, and Vince pissed all the talent off as they were all watching it live as they go back to the hotel, and Vince is like, "These talent just doesn't want to grab
These the millennials are not grabbing the brass ring."
I know every talent is watching this, going, "What the hell?"
Yeah, that's kind of where the brass ring comment became a thing. Right. Was from that interview.
Well. We get the show started, and it's one of those things where we get all the guys who are in the Elimination Chamber out there together. A few fun moments, but I think the big moment is Austin Theory getting suplexed, and then he finally gets a selfie with Brock Lesnar. Any takeaways from this other than just, hey, these are the guys in the main event of the show coming up?
Cowboy Brock, again, he has a special kind of charisma. He's just such himself. He's just having fun. Like he said to Pat McAfee, he does this because he has fun. He doesn't need to do it. The paycheck's nice, but and then Riddle. Riddle's out there in the toga, and he's got people chanting toga. Riddle. Again, as kind of a theme here, we're talking about making stars. Riddle is one that if they don't screw this up. I mean, Riddle's got a lot of potential. He's, again, age-wise and look, and he's got a pretty boy face at the, he's got a pretty face, but he's also got a toughness to him. He's got a certain goofy comedy. Like, he kind of can appeal to guys, girls, casuals, hardcore. I don't know. I think if they do it right, Riddle's got a chance to be a guy that can carry them in the future. So
my youngest daughter is sold on Riddle. He waved at her last week at Raw, so she was smitten. But I thought Brock was excellent in the segment. And then when he's face to face with Lashley, that still feels like a big match. I hope that it's not completely dropped after Elimination Chamber. I know they're going to pivot to Lesnar and Roman, but I hope they revisit Lashley and Lesnar this summer.
I could see that definitely being a WrestleMania Backlash rematch.
I don't get what you do, though, at Elimination Chamber with this match. You don't want to beat Brock again, beating him two pay-per-views in a row.
I think Brock's just going to win it. I think that's...
But then you got no titles on Raw, no world title on Raw.
I don't know. Like we said with Kevin,
that's where your Damian Priest U.S. title has to be elevated.
Yeah, right.
You guys are thinking so far in the future. That's never happening. Like, who cares about all that stuff?
Unless they find a way to get Brock out of the match, like Roman comes out, just beats him up, and they fight to the back or something like that.
My camera got blurry on me.
Yeah,
but
Jack, your hair still looks good even out of focus.
I know.
Man,
still glistening.
It's Vince McMahon watches the show and he's hacking into my camera, knowing I'm saying that they're not planning for after WrestleMania. They're just thinking about the big title match. But I will pivot to something I thought is very interesting. We had the Street Profits versus the Dirty Dogs. But what was interesting is we had Tommaso Ciampa on Raw, and we were actually getting an NXT kind of build and sales pitch here. I don't remember that ever happening on Raw before. Raj, is this something we should be expecting going forward? I thought this was kind of a big deal for them.
Yeah, it definitely felt like his call up. He's been working, matches on main event and dark matches. So, he's been on Raw before. Him and Johnny Gargano. People completely forget that they had that short run, and they even had a WrestleMania match in the tag title match. So yeah, it definitely looks like he's back.
Yeah, it's so funny. Like, NXT is moving more and more. Like, the NXT they're doing on Tuesday is like more and more what the company wants in terms of like getting talent ready to be Monday and Friday presentable. It's just like they have USA. It's live on USA. It's like you're watching these guys and girls go through these motions. It's like you can't unsee this stuff. It's like this is the NXT that Vince wants to get guys and girls ready, but like it shouldn't be the TV product every Tuesday. Like I don't know. I think they need to find a better way to fill the Tuesday that they are obligated to the USA, whether it's 205 Live or Last Ride documentary. I just feel like this should not be what the live TV is every Tuesday.
Absolutely. It's an important show because they need to develop new stars. So you need that. But I agree with Justin. It shouldn't be on national TV. It's hard to watch for me, because it's supposed to be because these guys, learning how to cut promos, how to get out of their comfort zone. So you're going to be seeing people who are super green and don't know how to work yet. And that's great. I think you should have that. It's like an OVW, and we've seen the kind of talent that OVW pulled out, but having it on a national cable, and they don't make much money from it. So it's almost better for them to just put it on Peacock.
Yeah. And like they do it in the PC for the look for TV and to have a controlled crowd. But like those talents need to, like, even if it's just a house show loop in Florida, they need to get out in front of fresh people to get different reactions, because that's how they're going to learn to work. They're in the basically it's like a closed set. The crowd is, essentially told, applause now, boo,
right.
Boo now. It's not conducive to what they're going to experience when they're in Indianapolis one week, they're in St. Louis the next week on Raw or SmackDown. So yeah, I mean, this NXT thing is fine, but it's not good for them for TV.
Right.
There's a handful of people I think are pretty good, but they just end up standing out like the stars, and everyone else looks like, what are they doing?
There's guys that I can see becoming big stars in NXT. It's just as a product, should NXT, be where it is.
It does feel like they definitely make it up as they go over there, which I guess is You can say that maybe that's getting them ready for Raw and SmackDown, but it does feel very much like they just sort of make up the show the day of and go, okay, I guess this is what we're doing. But this is something that was interesting to me. We had a matchup, and it was AJ Styles versus Damian Priest, U.S. title, and AJ Styles takes a clean loss from Damian Priest here, and this was very interesting to me because the whole good and evil side of Damian Priest didn't really seem to be a factor anymore. AJ's taken a loss right before going into a world title match. Justin, I want your thoughts on, based on what we know now, what is kind of like the best route to WrestleMania for Damian Priest?
To go in as U.S. champion, if he's going to lose it, you lose it to a guy like AJ. He didn't. So to go in, pick up a few more wins, go in and have a big title defense. And whether that title defense is a big win and he still is a champion, or if it's a big title defense and he loses, but then he, that's WWE's calendar year resets after Mania. And maybe that's what then he drops that title, does that job, and moves himself into a world title picture. But this was a fun match. They work well together. I went through this whole match nervous as a Priest fan. I was like, they're going to beat him tonight. He's going to drop the title tonight. I thought it was going to happen. It didn't. The finish was really creative. It was kind of a unique finish. The Damian Priest thing actually did, Jack. There was a brief moment. There was a moment where like he pinned Styles 1-2 kick out, and then like they had a good shot of his face, and looked like he was having an issue, and commentary sold it, and then he like woosawed it a little bit, and so it kind of like subtly was telling the story of he's overcoming his Jekyll and Hyde, or learning how to at least manage it. So yeah, best case scenario is he goes in as champion, find him a big opponent that's not named Stone Cold Steve Austin, I guess.
And I guess the opposite question to you, Raj. AJ Styles takes a pin before going into the Elimination Chamber. Do you think this is going to help him going into Elimination Chamber or hurt him? Like, because sometimes they'll lose right before a big win. Do you think it could be a case of him losing right before winning the title, or do you think this is could be a slippery slope for the Phenomenal One?
I think the way they positioned it is they've kind of already told you that AJ, Riddle, Austin Theory have no chance anyway. It's really about Brock and Lashley. So I don't think it changes interest in the match or who people are picking to win. So I think it was fine for what it was. I do think Damian Priest needed the win. I think if he lost here, if AJ beat him, that would be a sign that WWE has given up on him, because you see that happen a lot, where all of a sudden the guy is just losing all the time that was winning forever. So he needed this win. He couldn't have lost by DQ again, because he went ape shit, because that just makes him look stupid, and that's been hurting him. And so I thought this was the right move, the right call. AJ shaking his hand. It just felt like finally they're elevating him. They need to drop that, Jekyll and Hyde thing that hasn't been working. He's lost a lot of momentum and, lost a lot of fan reaction due to that.
It was weird. It was like, everyone loves Damian Priest. Let's change him.
Right. Real quick, Rosario Lucar is asking if we're doing a live podcast in Dallas after Mania. Me and Justin, we were talking about it. We'll get back to you guys. I don't know when we've
had a meeting that's it's been delayed by like 2 weeks.
No. But speaking of Mania, we move on to Omos and Hurt versus the Hurt Business. Again, just kind of a quick Nether Omos win here. Just kind of sticking with the same sort of things I've been asking. Justin, Omos, do you see him in WrestleMania? And if so, what do you think he's doing? He seems like he still has the momentum. It's just I don't know which way the momentum's going.
I mean, even the momentum's cooled off. They rushed to do the split with he and AJ. Then he had the typical big man spot in the Rumble where let's make everybody work together to get him out. But he kind of disappeared, in between all this, and he's in there tonight. I think he's on Mania. I think if they do it still, he's probably like an Andre the Giant Battle Royal kind of winner. Look, he's one of the tallest and biggest athletes ever. I honestly think probably maybe only second in terms of actual height to Giant Gonzalez. I think he's not as big and wide and strong as Andre was, but he is taller. I mean, he is a sight to see. He's right there with Big Show and Giant Gonzalez, but he is still green. You watch him. I think that's where the apprehension. I think that's where the slowing, the halting has been. Is this guy still green? I think he's doing some extra reps in the PC. Good. So get him on Mania, Battle Royal, but it looked like at the start of January that maybe this guy would be somebody who they try to put in a marquee match. I don't think that they're ready to. I think they know that he's not ready to take on that just yet.
I think him winning the Battle Royal makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. Raj,
if they do it, last year they did the Battle Royal on SmackDown.
Well, the Battle Royal is very non-COVID friendly. Let's be honest. So
that is true.
Yeah.
But it's also non-COVID friendly on SmackDown.
No, it's different.
COVID didn't travel to SmackDown.
Right. Yeah, it's not a Fox.
I joke before somebody takes this clip way out of context.
Yeah. But Raj, I would ask you about Hurt Business. Do you think? I feel like the internet still likes these two together, but do you think they could possibly be reheated and made legitimate, or are they kind of in dirty dog territory where their time is come and gone?
Yeah, I think if they got aligned with Bobby Lashley again, they could. I think all it takes is one promo, MVP bringing him back in. But it doesn't seem like it's rare where you see WWE puts people back together after splitting them up, and not only splitting them up, but taking them way down the card. So, I just don't. This just seems like this is going to be their role for a while. It's too bad. They were super talented, and Cedric's a young guy, is great in the ring, and he's shown. When he was doing the heel turn with Shelton for a while, he's shown he's got some personality. So I'd like to see them do more with him.
When he was on 205 Live was the time I was actually really watching 205 Live, because he was very entertaining, sort of as the head of that brand for a while. Zachary says in the chat, would love to see Brock and Shelton as a tag team. I love the idea of that. I have a feeling Brock's price tag is too high to put him in a tag team, though.
Yeah, you can count the number of matches Brock has done on TV on one finger since he returned, and that wasn't even really a match. That was one move. So he's an expensive. Brock Lesnar matches are expensive, so you're not going to waste those on tag team matches. Yeah. I don't think he's done a single tag team match since he's been back.
Yeah, I feel like it'd be weird to see him in a tag team now that I think about it. Like sitting on the outside, reaching in for a tag,
holding the tag rope.
Waiting for the hot tag. I feel like that would look weird.
There was that little period where both he and CM Punk were managed by Paul Heyman. So I guess you could have done something then. But again, it just.
But even that was in the time that was there's the Brock's last decade has been there's two parts of it. There's the return post UFC 2012. Yeah. Where he came back and he at first he wasn't with Paul, then he was, and Paul was also with Punk. And then there's the 2014. He beats Taker. Fast forward to SummerSlam. He squashes Cena. Suplex City is born. And from that point on, it's been a different Brock.
Once he beat Undertaker, completely different beast.
Yeah, it almost seemed like he was almost like being misused before that.
Right.
He lost to Triple H. He lost to at WrestleMania. He lost to Cena in his first match back, which still boggles the mind.
First match back I was at. It was in Chicago, April of 2012. I was there. It was in Chicago. It was, and Cena beat, it was, they're using chain links, and it was weird. It was it was
an ugly match. I mean, ugly in a good sense. It was brutal.
It was. It was. Brock came out, and Brock looked like he was. It was. Remember, up to that point, we'd only ever seen Brock in traditional wrestling short tights and boots, and he came out in the Jimmy John shorts and the fighting gloves, and it was. It was a almost uncomfortable kind of physical, violent match. It looked like Cena was going to die, and then Super Cena, and won. And from 2012 to 2014, it was like, what are they? And then he put a Kimura on Triple H. Triple H is doing executive meetings, and his arms in a sling. He was selling it. And then Mania 30 came, and he broke the streak of Taker. He squashed Cena, and from that point on, they were on a whole different level with the Brock Lesnar return.
Yeah. Someone else, speaking of returns, Lita, of course, is back, and she has a contract signing with Becky Lynch, and Becky's all disheveled with the idea that she has to face her former idol growing up. I did think Becky had a great line here where she said, they remember you with a smile on their face, but when I'm done, they'll remember you with a tear in their eye. Raj, I think this was one of Becky's best promos, and I think Lita knocked it out of the park.
I thought Lita was really good. I don't know, Becky, when she was doing the whole distraught bit, I just wasn't buying it. I didn't think it was one of her better moments, but I did at the end. It was strong, and yeah, I think Becky should destroy Lita personally.
Ooh.
Yeah, Jack, I'm glad you said that because that was in my notes. I wrote down soundbite Becky. This one was a soundbite. The one she had earlier, a few weeks, whatever it was, where she was like, there would be no Becky without Lita, but now there can't be a Becky and still be, or whatever it was. Like she's, I don't know if she's writing her own stuff or if she's got one particular writer on the staff that she's, in tune with. But Becky's a soundbite machine right now.
Yeah, this to me, it really helped sell the match, so it made me a lot more excited to see it. So, but we had another match in the women's division, and this one took a little while. We had a gauntlet match to see who enters last in the elimination chamber for the women's division. Rhea Ripley beats Nikki ASH clean, then she beats Liv Morgan after a little bit more of a fight. Then she beats Doudrop after quite a fight. And then after a pretty good last portion of the gauntlet, Bianca Belair gets the win. They shake each other's hands at the end. It's all good. Justin, does this make Bianca Belair the favorite in this match?
I think she's definitely there. I just think like she's just a steady, reliable act in the women's division. That's not named Becky, not named Charlotte. And it's they show that with her Royal Rumble performance that she's had the last couple of years. I commend them for trying to what they did with Rhea. I mean, Rhea's out there for over a half hour, or I think
42 minutes.
40, yeah, a stat that I saw. Yeah, I mean, like, but I don't believe that they even understand. I don't believe Rhea Ripley. Like, I really, they look at Rhea, they're like, okay, she looks different. There's something here, but they just don't. There's a disconnect. But yeah, Bianca, I think Bianca is, again, not named Charlotte, not named Becky. Bianca is somebody I think to put stock into. Yeah, I think that she's got to be a favorite to come out of the Elimination Chamber for a marquee Mania match. And I'm okay with it. I know she was big in Mania. I know she had the big win last year, but I'm fine with that. I think she's still, I look at the crowd reaction. It's not piped in sound. The crowd reacts when she comes out. Mm-hmm. There are people reacting to her, and that's what they need.
Yeah, it seems to me like it's her and Becky at Mania. So yeah, that would make sense that Bianca wins the Elimination Chamber and goes on to face Becky. Yeah, and I think Bianca should win that match too at WrestleMania.
Rhea,
the thing with Rhea, sorry. I was just going to say with Rhea, kind of to Justin's point, is that they did give her a lot tonight, but I have no faith that this is going to continue for like 2 months of her booking her strong. Every time we seem to see her get a little bit of a push or a little bit of something, she ends up being taken down because I just feel like they don't know how to write for that character.
What if they did something with her where like she has a good side and a bad side?
And can they coexist?
Can they coexist?
She just loses her mind and gets DQ'd every match.
Yeah, I think that's what we need to look at here. Zachary in the chat says, do you think heel Bianca would be great?
No.
Not now, but at some point down the road.
Not now.
Yeah, she's just so lovable right now. Like it'd be very hard for me to boo her at this point. But as we continue on, we have a Broga party that's happening throughout the show. I want to quickly touch on this. I thought this was fun. It was silly. It was one of those stupid things that I don't think really matters, but in an otherwise show episode that kind of dragged, this was just a silly in between. Anything you guys take away from the Broga party that you found interesting? Any notes there?
No.
Maybe think of WrestleMania 9, one of the worst WrestleManias ever.
That's one of them, yeah, for sure.
I like that one.
What? You like WrestleMania 9?
I think because I saw it when I was young, and I liked how it looked and the vibe of it more than
I hated how it looked. I don't like daytime wrestling. I like it. It has to be at night.
I just like the big toga. I'm a toga party guy. Okay, let me enjoy my toga parties.
Oh man.
But there was also another segment backstage, and this I loved. I totally popped as like when this happened, and that was Reggie and Dana Brooke, and Dana Brooke saying we're just friends, and Reggie saying that's cool, and then pinning her and taking the title from her. I thought this was fun. It was also silly and stupid, but it made me laugh. Did you guys enjoy this little bit?
The payoff's fun. The payoff is funny. He's mad he's in the friend zone, and then when he gets the confirmations in the friend zone, he schoolboys are up. I always laugh at WWE manufacturing their restaurant scenes. How they go to the club level, whatever arena they're in, and they make it. I don't know. I know I'm talking about how the sausage is made to some people, but it's quite astonishing, quite honestly. The 24/7. If you're R-Truth or Akira Tozawa, you've probably had more consistent week-to-week featured booking on TV than a lot of others, all to just be part of this ridiculous gimmick that has become the conga line of 24/7 title. So whatever. And shout out to Chad Patton, the referee, who, as they're running through the restaurant, he like stops and like pockets some free food.
I miss the day when they would go on location and like find a real restaurant to do this stuff at. Yeah. You know, like if they did the Austin Booker T grocery store thing now, they would just decorate a room, you know, in the basement of the arena somewhere. But yeah, the ending was cute, but I'm just sick of it's this kind of same thing every week, week in, week out. This ending was a little different. It was what it was. I think this was kind of when the Steve Austin news was out, so it was kind of hard to focus.
Yeah.
You're watching a 24/7 title segment, going, Steve Austin's coming back to this.
I didn't have time to look at the news. I was watching this 24/7 history making moment. Speaking of history making moments and things that Raj likes to watch, Alexa Bliss, she's cured. She's done. She's got her Lily doll with her, and she's coming to Elimination Chamber. Raj, walk us through all the Lily segments.
That's about it. She got her doll back, so it's too bad because it looked like she was going back to old Alexa Bliss, but then they gave her the doll back.
Yeah, this therapist, by the way, the biggest villain in all of pro wrestling right now, because he was this close to getting rid of Lily, and then he gave it back at the end. Justin, do you like her making her return in the Elimination Chamber?
No, because we've seen these pre-tapes for over a month. I'm still surprised they made her disappear, and Bray Wyatt got released. They had an easy out to just not, and they doubled down to go back to this. And then I don't like this. This might sound weird, but I'll just to be honest. I don't like her coming back in the chamber in Saudi. I think Alexa's presentation is very key. We know just because you're in a different country, different culture, like the women wear. I don't like the rolling out of her first time being back on the TV is in Saudi for this match. There's so much else going on in this match. I don't see her winning. I'm still shocked they're doing the storyline. She's not going to be. I don't know. I just don't like it. I don't. I'd rather her have been cured, and then give me a graphic that says she returns to Raw in person next Monday, and that's a thing to look forward to for that Raw. I don't think she needs to be a part of Elimination Chamber unless she's winning it, which I don't think is happening. So,
yeah. Yep. Wrestling enthusiast in the chat says, Raj, didn't WWE trademark WWE Sunday Stunner?
They did. That is true. They did. Yeah. And earlier this month. And Sunday Stunner. I mean, I don't think they're going to call night 2 of WrestleMania that, because they trademarked it. It says entertainment services, namely a show about pro wrestling. So it's for a show. Maybe they're going to do something on WrestleMania Sunday with, they're calling that the pre-show. I don't know. I have no idea what it's for, but yeah, they did trademark that earlier this month.
Yeah, that would be a very bad name for WrestleMania night too. I would not be into it. It'd be stupendous. Zachary says WWE really had a chance to reboot and scrap this. Yeah. I still think they do have a chance. I would be okay with it 100% if she just came back and she didn't have Lily anymore. I'd say I'm still okay with it. I still sign off on this.
The Lily stuff must sell. That must be that's the only thing I can figure why they would not just abandon it.
There was this survey that this site did, but where they said that the Lily doll was one of the all-time best sellers. But if you look at their methodology, they're going by reviews, and most of the reviews are just, it's people going on there to be like, who would buy this? So, so it's not a sound survey.
Yeah. It's same people that did Does Kevin Owens hate Texas survey, I'm sure. Rey Mysterio or the Mysterios versus Alpha Academy. Really, I like Gable on the microphone, but it felt like he talked a long time before this match started. Miz and Maurice there on commentary. Miz gets involved. Alpha Academy takes advantage and gets the win, and Miz attacks Rey after the match. Justin, I thought this was good. I mean, Alpha Academy gets a win. Mysterios are protected. Miz gets to get some booze. I think it did everything it was supposed to. I'm not going to write books about it, but
Chad Gable is a rising heel. Thank you.
Yeah. Shush.
I don't know. Are they building is it Miz and Mysterio? Or are they doing Miz and Mysterio at Mania or Miz and Dominic?
Miz and Mysterio Elimination Chamber was announced tonight.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just shocked that they haven't gone farther with the Mysterio splitting up. It seemed like that was going to be a WrestleMania match. It still could be. We still got 6 weeks to go. But
it has to be.
It would feel kind of out of nowhere now, wouldn't it? Because they're not really teasing it. Like they were teasing it a little bit to Royal Rumble, but now they're just fine.
I think Dominic he needs a reboot a little bit. He's just kind of flailing, and I think him turning heel, getting a badass evil mask,
yeah, cool mask. And I think maybe I'm overthinking it. I think him going to NXT and joining Legado del Fantasma and getting away from Rey for a bit to sort of be on his own. I think it would get him.
I don't think that's part of Rey's deal. I think Rey's deal was, I'm back. You're gonna get my son. It sucks that Vicky Guerrero is with AEW because I think they mentioned it last week. Eddie is such a huge part of Rey's career and legacy, and then even Dominic being part of that whole storyline, however many years ago was. Too bad Vicky's not available to be for Dominic to turn heel and have Vicky, who's a heat magnet, to be like his heel manager. I think that'd cool. That'd be better than what Vicky's doing, honestly, in AEW.
Right.
Yeah. I think he's so tied to Rey. I think it was good at first, but now he's Rey's. That's who he is, and he needs to get beyond that because Rey can't be there forever. Donnie Cho in the chat says, could you please fantasy book a feud between Lily and Kenny Omega's blow-up doll? Justin, I turn it to you for this. I know you have some plans here, so let's hear.
Yeah, right. Have all the Kenny Omega stands all over me. Right. Donnie, thanks for the $10.
Can't help you there.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Lily's got magic powers, though.
Yeah,
Lily doll is just a good worker.
Right. So if this happens on NXT 2.0, then Lily's getting the win here.
Right, yeah.
Lily doesn't put out the way the blood. Oh my god.
So
Farmer, we gotta end this.
We end the show. Let's get this done. Seth Rollins versus Randy Orton. Really good match. Ends with Randy Orton getting the RKO. Alpha Academy interrupt, distract Randy, and Randy gets stomped, and Rollins gets the win. Again, I like the match. The ending was obviously a shade of gray to protect everybody, but I think that's kind of what you need here. Raj, were you happy with how this one ended?
Yeah, I think they always want to protect Randy, so you're going to do that. I like that Alpha Academy is in that mix. I think Chad Gable has just been phenomenal lately. He's just really been coming into his own. He's been given that, handed that ball and he's running with it. So, I like that they were involved in the main event and again. So, yeah, I thought it was good.
Yeah, it is a former Mania match. I watched it at 31 and in
California
and Levi Stadium. I mean, it's really funny. It's kind of like WWE's kind of accepted the 3 hours. It's like, I don't want to say they book Raw like a Saturday night's main event, but it does. I mean, but in ways it does feel like they do put the things they definitely want you to see. So they want you to see Brock Lesnar out there. They want you to see all the chamber men's combatants, and they want you to see that. So they put it up front. And there's a lot of other weeks. You go through every other week. And they put something that's like a good match in the main event, but it's not necessarily something that if you're a casual on the fence week to week viewer, you're going to stay up and stay in for, or so. I don't know. So it's really made watching Raw a different kind of attitude. I literally I sit down and I'm hyper focused the first like 30, 40 minutes of Raw, and I'm always taking notes, but then like I'm willing to go get a snack or put the kids to bed. I'm willing to do different things, and like because I've come to figure out where their pressure points are, where in the show they are going to tell you, hey, look at this is important, and then the other stuff that's kind of like I could read the Wrestling Inc. Wrestling Inc. has a live recap, a live watch along story. If I missed who jumped in on that segment, I can go on Wrestling Inc. real quick and write it on my notes and find the YouTube video real quick, and I'm caught back up. It's a weird way to consume Raw.
Yeah, they definitely front load, and that's kind of the case for really all of wrestling right now. Is
AEW doing it? Yeah,
AEW for the most part.
Their opening segment.
Yeah, Punk versus MJF was kind of an exception, but lately the most important stuff's at the beginning. The Keith Lee surprise, Danielson versus Omega too, and Hangman Page, and then Rampage always same thing, which is understandable because they're on later, so you want to front load. So yeah.
So you heard it, WrestleMania Night 2 premium live event, Stone Cold Steve Austin opening match.
In a boneyard match. Zachary says, do you think Edge and AJ will face each other at WrestleMania? That seems to be the rumor, but I don't have any reason.
Edge has clout and he wanted that match. So, I mean, there's really nothing else that really pops out right now.
Yeah.
But Edge, I mean, AJ is kind of a baby face now.
I will say there was in that opening segment tonight of Raw, I did get a little bit of vibe of AJ Austin Theory. There was a little bit of an exchange, and then it wasn't shot on camera, but you could hear it when Brock put his hat and coat and everything on Austin Theory, kind of demeaning him as a coat rack. AJ was the one who on mic was like kind of running Theory down. So again, if we kind of all are accepting that neither of those two guys are walking out of chamber as champion, and again, if my theory is right that Austin Theory needs a big match against a big opponent for Mania, AJ Styles will be that. Because again, we know AJ Styles and Omos. Again, they rushed it to the point of this is not going to be Mania. We have different plans. So if they have big plans for AJ at Mania. If it's not Edge, Austin Theory would be that.
Yeah. What about Edge versus Damian Priest? Like getting someone younger over that's kind of already on the brink who could just use that little more of a push. If done right, that could be good.
I'd be okay with that.
I think Edge could go against anyone right now, and you'd say that's great.
And thanks to JTO98, you guys are the best. I watched the first 20 minutes of Raw, and then catch up with you guys. Well, thank you, appreciate it.
Oh yeah. So yeah, this was and Zach in the chat says Riddle should walk out as champion.
That's not happening.
I wouldn't hold my breath for that, but
Riddle versus Goldberg.
Yeah, that would actually be pretty cool.
If
they allowed real life to use their real life past stuff, and they have footage of Goldberg approaching him backstage and stuff like that, then it could be good. But they're not doing that.
They're not.
Yeah. Bye, Raj.
Bye, Raj.
I think that does it for us, Justin. Raj, he's done. He's over it. But any final thoughts before we head into Elimination Chamber?
Final thoughts. No, just
Raj, you were eliminated from the chamber. You're out.
No.
No, I mean you look at the card. I mean it's Mania kind of status. It's a big card. It's a stacked show. So it's and again, I'm glad that it's all relevant to Mania. It's all it's all relevant. What happens is going to affect Mania. I'm glad. So it's going to make next Monday very important.
I'm really interesting to see how they handle that men's chamber match, because I just feel like having title versus title does make Lesnar versus Roman bigger, but it also gets rid of one world title match for a 2-night event.
Right. So I mean, I'll mention it's gonna make next Monday even bigger here with Raw. What's going on? So no, I mean, there's a lot going on, and then God, I mean, this just really in the last 3 hours, this Austin Stone Cold stuff just which obviously occupied a lot of our conversation, and so who knows? It's 12:30 on the East Coast right now in the morning. I have no idea what 12:30 Tuesday afternoon is going to hold 12 hours from now. We might have a confirmation that Austin's going to be on Raw next week, and so I mean this is a crazy time.
Yeah, for all the stuff for everything we say week in and week out, WWE does have a way of pulling out these shows and just making them seem incredible. Because this show, day one, was an incredible show. Like on paper was an incredible show. This on paper is an incredible show. Mania is looking like it's going to be an incredible show. Yeah, I'm excited for Elimination Chamber. I think it's going to be a good one. We are going to there's going to be an NXT after show, Wrestling Inc. tomorrow. There's going to be an AEW Dynamite after show on Wednesday. There's going to be the all new Wrestling Inc.
Thursday
Chitter Chatter Thursday show.
Right.
I don't know what you call that.
Yeah, we'll be talking Cobra Kai season 4, Elimination Chamber preview, and the wrestling news of the week.
Ooh, so definitely check out that one. That one gets a lot of good reviews. If you're in this chat and you haven't checked that out yet, make sure to check it out. And of course, Friday is the doubleheader SmackDown Rampage after show, and then we're gonna have a Elimination Chamber after show on Saturday. No rest for Wrestling Inc. Just nonstop, keeping it going.
Yeah, it'll be on early. Remember, Eliminations Chamber starts at noon Eastern, so the podcast will probably be like 3:30, 4 as soon as it's over.
Yeah, a perfect way to wrap up your afternoon. Check all that out, and of course, Austin coming back. Stay tuned. Follow at Wrestling Inc. on social media. Also follow at Justin LaBar, follow at Raj Giri _303, and follow at Real Jack Farmer. That does it for us. Thank you to everyone.
Don't follow the at Raj Giri that's out there on Twitter. Follow the one that's _303.
And whatever you do,
don't follow
the other 302 one.
Yeah,
don't follow the imposters.
302. Don't follow 301. 300's fine. Don't follow 299.
I gotta get Raj verified.
But thank you to everyone in the chat. Michael, Ricky, Killer, Night One, Tim, Bernie, Azel, everyone. Thank you so much. That does it for us. And we'll see you guys in the boneyard. No, next time.